So this one is, do you know yourself? And it's about an error that I see quite a lot of people make, and it results in them being unhappy. So, like, do you know yourself? And how do you know yourself? I think what I would say is that I evaluate my own life. I evaluate the decisions I've made, both the good and the bad. When I've identified weaknesses, I try to think of things that I need to do to overcome those weaknesses. And yeah, I think I know myself fairly well, warts and all. And it's based on an honest assessment of myself. Now, what I see other people doing is they don't assess themselves who they are. What they do instead is that they allow other people to define them. And this is obviously dangerous because other people's perceptions of you probably won't conform to who you really are. So rather than you looking into a conventional mirror, if you let other people define you, it will be looking into one of those weird mirrors that you see at, or you used to see at fun fairs, that create a distorted image of you. So it's extremely dangerous to allow other people to define you, because their answer about who you are is probably not going to be accurate. So why is this? Why shouldn't you rely on other people's opinions to define you? The first thing is, I suppose a psychologist would call it projection. So somebody deep down in their subconscious might know what their weaknesses are, what their prejudices are. And what they do is, rather than accepting and dealing with their own problems, they just simply project it onto somebody else. So you might have heard of this phrase, they are the very thing they accuse you of. And that was certainly true when I was at school and I'd encounter these, let's call them politically correct authoritarians, PC authoritarians. That's a term I invented for them. And these people would accuse you of all sorts of horrible things. The most common one, of course, not that they ever said it outright to me, was being racist. And what I knew about those people was that they certainly weren't colourblind. They had very patronising opinions about people from other ethnicities that weren't positive at all. But that wouldn't stop them from accusing other people of the thing that they themselves were guilty of. Second reason why people can basically say all sorts of things about you that are not true is just plain old jealousy. So they might look at your life, they might be extremely envious of your life, and that frustrates them greatly and incentivizes them into giving you some completely misleading feedback. Snidey comments are the most, like the frequent one. Like probably about 20 years ago, I discovered this, that there was a couple of people, I'm not going to mention them in particular, and there's one that still specialises it now. All they would do is basically just say snidey comments. And about 20 years ago, I just made a decision that I was just going to decide that I wasn't going to take any notice of these comments, and I would just ignore them. In the classic one from the 70s, when you were growing up, sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt you. So, yeah, the origin of these kind of snidey comments, I believe in many cases comes from just plain old envy and jealousy. And the people making these horrible comments are just, they're hurting inside. The last phenomenon, basically, you could sum up as trying to knock other people down in order to build themselves up. So, they know that they're not any great shakes themselves. So what they do is they just try to knock other people down to compensate and therefore improve their own status relative to yours. So yeah, that's all I want to say today. It's just like hopefully it's a fairly brief one here, is that don't allow other people to define who you are, because you can't rely on their perceptions. Their perceptions are highly likely to be negative, and they probably are there. These motivations are there because the people making the judgments are unhappy themselves. So that's all I want to say today. So God bless.